and thank you all for being here. DroidCon's primary audience is Android developers, but I know there's always some folks at DroidCon who aren't. It is fantastic that all of you are here learning about soft skills. And by watching the talks today, whether live or recorded, you are taking initiative that will accelerate you towards success. The theme of the Soft Skills Summit is a successful career as an Android developer requires more than just technical skills. Those technical skills come from experience and education, and your knowledge can be practical or theoretical. And theoretically, there's infinite knowledge. Practically, though, you are constrained by your abilities to discover, digest, and deploy your knowledge. Collaboration opens up opportunities to break down the knowledge constraints that each individual has. Some people think they are collaborating when really they are cooperating. Cooperating requires a certain level of soft skills so you don't become a blocker to others and each person can get their work done. But where cooperation is more passive, kind of working together, collaboration is active. Many more soft skills come into play in order to collaborate effectively. Empathy is one of them, and empathy takes collaboration to the next level. It's possible to gain empathy without collaboration. This image is from the Empathy Museum, one of their projects called 1001 Books. Each book was donated by someone, including a note from the donor, to provide some insight into their love of the book. For the readers, there was no collaboration with the donors. Instead, they were invited and perhaps challenged to empathize with the previous reader, and their only one-way interaction being that note. So we know knowledge is foundational to any career. Reaching higher levels on a career ladder requires increasing collaboration with peers in other roles, and of course, increasing your knowledge as you gain more responsibilities and influence. The reason that I say empathy is the accelerant is because it pushes you to recognize gaps. When you understand where other people are coming from, what motivates them, what discourages them, what stresses them out or makes them excited, you can better learn from them. You can also better help them, and you generally bring more value to the organization and their customers. This can both broaden and deepen your hard and soft skills. People want to work with you. They will trust you more with responsibility and the influence they give you, and that accelerates you on your career path. When I introduce myself, I usually just talk a little bit about what I do at TouchLab. But since this is a talk related to leveling up your career, I thought I'd give you a brief history of how I leveled up in my own career as an example. There are very few memes that hold sentimental value to me. This one does because it was introduced to me by one of my favorite coworkers while I was in Japan. He also introduced me to DevOps before DevOps was widely known. Anyway, I really just have this here as a disclaimer. I am not an Android developer. I dual majored in math and physics. I minored in music, and I took a couple computer engineering classes. Then I traveled to Taiwan and I taught English. Some people just want to travel. I wanted to experience life outside the US and not just as a vacation. I built empathy for people completely new to something, my students learning a new language and myself learning to live in a very new environment. And I stayed there for 2 years. With the help of some self-empathizing, I moved to Australia to get my master's so I could start a career in software development. I leveraged my teaching experience to TA a couple of courses, then leveraged those to get my first job. My technical skills got me attention from more senior developers and architects, but more importantly, my growing empathy towards the testers, the technical writers, and the agile coach got me attention from my manager, who challenged me with new teams, initiatives, and responsibilities, fast-tracked my promotions, and he even fought with the VP to make sure that I would get my bonus even though I quit before the eligibility deadline. I was at that job for about 2 years before heading off to Yokohama. The three main things that helped me succeed in this new job that I learned from my old job were understanding that legacy code has reasons it is the way it is. People all the way down, people putting this together, people making decisions. There are pros and cons to testing different things in different ways that I learned from the testers. And Agile doesn't have to be Agile in name only. Within a year, I was given responsibility for some of the most challenging features, working directly with stakeholders in managing and assessing the new team in India. Also within a year, the stakeholders wanted my team to move to Spain to be closer to them. I declined and instead moved to Tokyo, where I tried life without coding. Here I got the opportunity to empathize with several new roles: designers, content strategists, UX researchers, full stack web engineers, and some very high profile stakeholders. After another year, I moved to yet another new city to find a new job and have a new baby. I started working at TouchLab in New York and lived out of an apartment just barely enough to fit a crib. I began to develop empathy for mobile engineers, users, and new industries. Now I interact with clients from startups to Fortune 100 companies. I oversee our technical and non-technical projects. I recruit and manage designers, and I keep a level of understanding of what our and other developers are doing with Android, iOS, Kotlin multi-platform mobile, and various other cross-platform solutions. Have I failed? Yes, many times. But that's enough about me. This section is about learning from failure, whether it's your own or somebody else's. More specifically, about failures that showcase potential empathy gaps. This specific issue may not arise in Android development, but what you do when you build empathy for others is move beyond the specifics. You may be working on an app that uses augmented reality, or detects features of photos, or helps people report crimes, or calculates whether someone qualifies for a loan. Have you and the other people involved thought about how it would affect people with dark skin? What if you're working on accessibility enhancements? Given your current understanding of what people with disabilities experience, do you know what a minimal viable solution may be? As an abled person, if you just follow a checklist or even test the talkback functionality yourself, you may actually be making things worse for disabled people. Why do some people assume that all users' names will fit a certain format? Why do some people assume their users will be okay altering their names to fit a certain format? Why do some people not want to update the database, the API, the sorting and filtering logic to accommodate a diverse set of names? The same goes for genders, contact information, and lots more of this form entry type development. As your empathy grows, you not only notice more issues like these, you try to do what you can from your side. And if you can't, you start to speak up about it. You also learn who to speak up to. Product managers, designers, API engineers, testers, up to the CEO if you have to. This last one could be a joke because this is an Android conference, but Android users exist for a lot of reasons. Maybe they can't afford an iPhone. Maybe they don't want to be part of the Apple ecosystem. Maybe they just love the features of their phone. The bottom line is Android has over 70% market share worldwide, with iOS holding the majority in only 3 to 10 countries, depending on your choice of stats. And even then, the top iOS country is about 60% market share. As Android developers, you have the potential to impact far more people with the apps you build. So empathizing with the diversity of Android users is very important as you level up your career. There are really 3 important aspects of the systems we work with. They consist of interrelated and interdependent parts. They are more than the sum of their parts, and the individuals working as part of a system are components of that system as well. I love this inclusive view of the system as explored by folks from Etsy, IBM, and more. Here we see people using what was created by the system. The person who finds the soap dispenser doesn't work because of their skin color, the disabled person trying to make sense of captions, the person being told that their name is not valid, or the person unable to install an app because of the phone they use. What is created by the system doesn't tell the whole story. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of tools used to create the end product. And those are only the tools chosen to create it. There's millions of tools out there. The surface area of the Android API for app development, for example, is huge. There's 400 classes that just start with the letter A. And what do you know about customizing AOSP? Or what do you know about the release process or the build tools or the design systems, and on and on and on. We're getting now to the fact that no one has a full picture of the system. There are people, including you, making decisions about who, what, where, why, and how to build and interact with the system. And everyone has a different view of the system. They personally have different experiences, skills, and abilities, and the business gives each of them different incentives, goals, and opportunities. I have seen some great career ladders. I've written what I hope are good career ladders inspired by them, but even the best ladders won't match up to reality. Instead of climbing a ladder, it's more like climbing mountains. No two people are going to put their hands and feet in exactly the same place. And there are lots of different mountains to climb and lots of ways to get to the top. Laura Hogan coaches managers and individual contributors in tech. The hard truth is that no one person will ever be able to manage you the way you want or need. But she recognizes that there are a plethora of people out there whom you can lean on to find the variety of support you need. She calls this the manager Voltron. What I love about this is it's true not just in manager-report relationship, but in any relationship you're going to have as you move on in your career. And it's really quite daunting how many career paths there are. In a way, less knowledge, less collaboration, less empathy, that's the easy choice. But that's not going to level up your career. As you empathize with the roles and responsibilities others have, you'll need to practice some self-empathy to understand where you want to go, and you will need support from other people you meet along the way, just like the manager Voltron. Unfortunately, today I can't collaborate with you because I'm talking to you. This is a one-way thing. So what I'd like to do next is share with you some people that I've learned from and who have had a hand in leveling up my career, whether they know it or not. Maybe you'll find some inspiration here to empathize with new people, try new things, and accelerate your career path. At my first job, I was fortunate to work on a team that was consolidating 2 different products. So there was a lot to learn, a lot of people to chat with, and a lot to get done. But I wouldn't have been able to take advantage of the opportunities without one engineer who was soft-spoken but worked on a lot of cool stuff. He understood when to keep working independently and when to reach out to other engineers. He also showed an interest in all kinds of tech, whether different programming languages, continuous integration solutions, low-level systems programming, or high-level web development. I worked and spoke with him as much as I could, even as I changed to other teams. Other inspirations to me are Fabian, who dives super deep into things, Chelsea, who's constantly learning and sharing how she learns, and Jordan, who provides an iOS counterbalance to my Android bias. I had been to a meetup or 2 before joining TouchLab, but seeing how Kevin approached supporting and participating in meetups and conferences and writing blog posts was really eye-opening. After seeing the value in DevRel for myself, the company, and the community, I found some more role models. Nader is one of the best at leveraging Twitter. Ellen navigates both Android and iOS developer communities, and her talks are super engaging. And Liz continues to teach me how tech decisions impact everyone's lives, whether employees, customers, or people outside of the company's immediate bubble. I had worked directly with designers the year before I met Liam at TouchLab, but it was his relentless focus on user-centered design and platform citizenship that bootstrapped how I approach the industry and client discussions. Going way back, A List Apart was one of the first blogs I ever followed. They kept me curious and learning about designing for the web. The folks behind Boxes and Arrows provide insights into how design works in practice. And the data visualization articles from Dark Horse Analytics help me think critically and communicate data better. I want to emphasize here that gaining empathy isn't always and often isn't about gaining skills. I will never be a designer, but the empathy that I've gained helps me understand why and how designers do what they do, so I can collaborate with them more effectively. And it helps me recognize when a designer or a design itself is or isn't meeting objectives, so I can manage design projects more effectively. It was my first time being a full-time Scrum Master and Bud's first time being a full-time product owner. We empathized with each other to figure out what worked for each of us, both of us together, our team and our stakeholders. Our team became an example for other teams around the world that were tasked to innovate product and how work was done. Daniel's blog had and still has some of the best writing on product management I've read. Ken's blog has great examples of what good product managers do and how to be one. And Eric's book, The Lean Startup, helped me reconcile product management practices and cultures I'd seen in large companies with the agile mindset that they wanted to have. Andrew was shepherding the first company I joined through an agile transformation. He wasn't a by-the-numbers Scrum consultant. He was a coach who understood aspects and methodologies that support agility. He also had empathy for all the roles involved in delivering valuable software, not just the developers. Joanna is always the first person I think of when I need to refresh or upskill on project and program management. Jim and Tony Ann are the masterminds behind Personal Kanban, and they forever enhanced my perspective and thinking on managing work effectively. And Troy's writing and tools both expanded the possibilities and constrained the waste involved in data-informed project management. There are many aspects to a good manager. I'm still learning about them, and every time I learn more, I recognize elements from my first manager, Chris. Often developers are thrust into management positions because that's the next rung of the ladder. But there are lots of upward paths that aren't people and org management. Soft skills and empathy are important to accelerate your career in any of the previous tracks because you will always need to collaborate with people throughout the org. As a manager, you become accountable to the happiness, growth, and success of your people and you're part of the organization. And you need all the help you can get. That's why Lara's manager Voltron and her thoughts on resilient management are so important. Camille has such a solid understanding of the management path that she wrote the book on it. And I would say it's required reading, whether you want to travel that path or better empathize with management. And finally, Andy Grove, whose ideas on the process of management and what it means to be successful as a manager are foundational for tech leaders. Now, the thing about all of this is you can read a billion books or blog posts or tweets, but there's a limit to how far that will level you up. Unless you put knowledge into action through collaboration, your knowledge has little value to your career. With collaboration, not only can the people around you discover your value to them, you discover where your current knowledge is not deep enough, not broad enough, or irrelevant. More knowledge gives you more opportunities to collaborate, and more collaboration gives you opportunities to grow your knowledge beyond what you could with self-education. Empathy gives you the ability to refine your knowledge for what works best for you and for others in the goals that you pursue together. Empathy also gives you the ability to collaborate more effectively with people. To make that a bit more concrete, I'll leave you with two principles I have found fundamental to leveling up. The first is to give away your Legos. Molly Graham was talking about fast-growing teams and startups when she said, if you personally want to grow as fast as your company, you have to give away your job every couple months. But I believe if you want to accelerate your career, no matter your environment, you need to do this too. Where empathy comes in is knowing which Legos you should give who. Some people want to do certain work. Some people are better at certain work, and you want them to be successful as you try to be successful with your new Legos. Effectively taking on new responsibilities while delegating, mentoring, coaching, or sponsoring others requires a lot of empathy. The second is to seek out people who are different than you, so you can collaborate and learn from them. The Parable of the Polygons by Weihart and Nikki Case teaches us that demanding diversity is necessary to improve diversity. And when you seek out people with different experiences, interests, motivations, and skills, you expand your own and further leverage empathy to accelerate your career. Thank you all.